Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 23. So, in last episode, we took on the Calgary Flames in the third round of the playoffs, and unfortunately, we lost. But the big surprise was actually that we did not suffer any retirements. We were thinking Parrott and we were thinking Claxton, both those two guys would hang up their skates, but they are back for another season, which is insane. Parrott is pretty much still usable as like a fourth line option, but I would still probably use him in a top six role. But there is a chance he could play for the last two seasons because he's asking for 2 years. But the one player that dropped off quite a bit is Miles Claxton. He's down to a 69 overall, and for some reason he decided he wanted to come back again. So more likely we are going to still play him at the NHL level, maybe in a fourth line role or a depth role, but I do want him to continue playing for this NHL team just because he's Miles Claxton. He's had a very long career up to this point. By the end of this season, he'll have over 1,600 games in his belt likely. And I think he just deserves to be here right till the end until he decides to actually call it quits. So it's going to be interesting to see how much he ends up getting paid this offseason. And then we also have a lot of emergence of younger guys in our lineup and stuff like that. Like guys, for example, like Gamble, he's starting to really develop into something decent. Darby is kind of staying where he is, but some guys also are kind of dropping off a little bit. Like Derek Heath, for example, has dropped off a lot. Like he could easily retire within one season, but he is also up for renewal. So I'm going to basically do as best as I can to maintain this team's roster as much as possible. That way we give ourselves a better chance of actually making it back to the playoffs again, because I don't know if we're going to be a playoff team, even if we do keep them together in a sense, because we do have a lot of guys dropping off. It's going to be a really interesting season, I think, and luckily for us, all our defensemen are pretty much signed because all of them are RFAs going into next season, except for Smith Pelly, so he's going to be a bit expensive. There's actually quite a bit of good players this offseason that we need to re-sign if we go to all expiring. Gamble, Bobkov, Keith, those guys are going to be pretty expensive. Klepis. These two, three players, two players, I guess, or actually three players, Saber and Glenn Cross and Loins. Hopefully they don't ask for too much because they're more like fourth line options. Same with Lucic. But a lot of other players are going to be relatively expensive. At least, like I said, with the RFAs, we'll qualify them and we'll be able to get them back for another season easily enough. But I'm hoping that we could pretty much just run this team right into the ground for like the last two seasons and just maintain it pretty much. And obviously, we're not going to be too focused on the draft because the draft isn't going to matter to us at all at this stage. But anyways, before we get into the draft in the entire offseason, I do have a couple comments from Michael Dose. The first one, he says, I know it sucks to lose, but there's a reason that Calgary player is a franchise player. And yes, indeed, there definitely is that Calgary player. What was his last name again? It's been like 2 weeks since I recorded. Lukowicz. Yeah, Lukowicz is an insane player, and he definitely was the difference maker in that series. He had 29 points only in 21 games, which isn't insane. Like, we've seen other players that are franchise put up a lot more points, but yeah, this guy's just a really, really good player, and he's only in his prime. He's only 25 years old. He could play easily to 36 and be one of the best players of NHL history, so yeah, that's why we end up losing to the Calgary Flames, likely. Also, the fact that they have like 90 still locked up is really nice. Like, they're a really good looking team. Like, they haven't won a Stanley Cup, I think, yet with this team, but they definitely should in the next few years. And then last and final comment from Michael says, just wondering if the best Anchorage team played against the best Chicago team that you have in other playlist, which one wins in a 7-game series? I think I go Chicago in 6 as Asher Vance pushes them to victory. What do you say? And basically, I don't know if I think I agree with that. This team's obviously won 2 Stanley Cups. The Chicago team's only won 1 Stanley Cup. So there's a little bit of a different thing. I feel like at this prime, the Anchorage Ice Tigers had a good amount of depth, but Asher Vance definitely is a lot better of a player than I'd say Avery Parrott is, even though Avery Parrott is a fantastic player as well. It's definitely, I'd say, a very close one. It would probably go to 7 games likely, but I think, yeah, probably Chicago would end up winning just because Vance is a machine. But honestly, Anchorage wouldn't surprise me if they came through with a 7-game victory against Chicago if we end up doing something like that. But I don't have screenshots of all the players during their primes, unfortunately, because if I did have screenshots of all the players during their primes and basically like all their attributes, I can easily do that for a video, but unfortunately I can't. So those are the comments I got in last episode. So let's get into the draft, and then we're going to get into the resign stage and hopefully keep this team as much together as possible. And then maybe there'll be some former players in free agency if we have cap left over. Who knows? But let's see what this top 5 is looking like. We're not going to focus too much on this draft because, like I said, none of these players are going to make the NHL before the end of the series because we only got like 2 years left, I think, of this. So, yeah, there's that. Also, maybe by the time you guys are watching this video, I will have a straw poll linked in the description or in the pinned comment in the video. Basically, it will be to pick what team we're going to be using for my 2009 franchise that we're going to be doing in a couple weeks. So, go vote on that if that's already out. If it's not already out, it more than likely will be out on the community tab at some point too. But basically, I just want to know what you guys think we should be doing for our 09 franchise, because that's likely what we're going to be doing next after Anchorage ends up until the end of NHL 23. So let's see what this top 5 is looking like. So Winnipeg at 1 takes Standard. So that's a pretty standard pick. There's Allen. Standard, really good shooting categories. Probably going to be a pretty solid player. Vancouver at 2 is going to take Crosby. Oh, there was a Crosby in this draft. I didn't realize. That would have sucked. Oh, man, it was that close to being Crosby to Pittsburgh. That would have actually been so cool. Lincoln Crosby. And he wears number 83, so almost 87. Damn, that would have been cool if he went to Pittsburgh. I didn't realize even that Pittsburgh had this high of a pick. And there was a Crosby. Pittsburgh gets Kennens, who's a 78. It would have been better if Kennens went to Vancouver just because there was a Kennens also that played for Vancouver. Ronald's Kennens, I think. Glennie, a high top 6, goes to LA. Doesn't look like he has any X factors unless we didn't scout him out. And Tampa at 5 is going to take Alavara. Alavara, the double A. The double A battery. That's what his nickname would be. If I had this guy on my team, I'd call him the double A battery. I don't know why. Let's move to our pick at 31 and see what we can find here. I honestly don't think we're going to find much, but because it looks like there's medium top 9s going at this stage, and most of these guys are like 3 years out minimum, which means they won't make it before the end of the series. So we're going to have to go for like best potential if there's any low elites already. There is a medium elite goaltender, but not for round 4. This guy's maybe round 2, but 5 years old. Yeah, like honestly, I just feel like skipping most of this draft because it's not going to really matter at all. But I probably will just take some of the low elites. Like, oh yeah, Andrew Fernandez. I remember this guy. This guy has good shooting. He's 20 years old already, and he's guaranteed low elite. He is 3 years out apparently, but if we get him good growth in 1 year because he could play in the AHL, maybe he makes it for the last season. But I really doubt it. So we'll take Fernandez here. And then we'll probably try and get some of these other guys that might be a little elite, like Lalonde and Ekholm. So, Andrew Fernandez, welcome aboard. Low lead 66 overall. So, yeah, maybe 1 year of growth. He might end up making it. He does also have a lot of X factors. So, I do kind of like that pick. Considering if we lose somebody and this guy jumps up to like a 77 even, he could easily be in our lineup for the last season. So, there is Fernandez. Let's move to our next pick at 64 here. I don't know why that trade thing popped up and then disappeared, but oh well. Let's try and grab those other low elites now. Or potential low elites. They might not be low elites. They might be like low 4s. So we'll go probably for Georges Lalonde since he's 3-bar low elites and 3 years out. Yeah, we'll take George, even though he might not make it before the end of the series. Oh, he's only a low 6. Yeah, this isn't looking like a great draft of low 6s, and medium top 9s are going in round 2. Yeah, this guy's not going to definitely make it before the end of the series. I could tell you that. And then we'll try and get that other one if he is still there, which I don't know if he is or not. He probably isn't. Yeah, he probably already went. Yeah, he went already, so we might just go for another guy off the board. 4 years out. Declan Nesbitt. Let's go with Declan Nesbitt. I don't really care who I'm picking at this stage. Low 9. Let's see if we can find somebody that's actually supposed to go around their spot. Low 6, medium, bottom 6. Yeah, this is not a great class, but oh well. Like I said, it doesn't matter too much. The most important thing this offseason is the re-sign stage. We could just literally go with a cool name if we want to. Like, look, Alex McGinley. This guy has no X Factors guaranteed, but still might be the great-grandson of Alex McGinley. So, let's take him. Future Hall of Famer right here. Yeah, low top 9, and he does not have X Factors, but still, he has a cool name, so there's that. Next pick in round 5, we're already getting into the bottom 6 potential guys, which is not good at all. Rob Kane might actually be a decent goaltender. Let's go with Rob Kane, because why not? 58 medium backup. Yeah, this is a terrible class. At least our first round pick, I think, will be decent, but I hope that he could play one good year in the AHL and then be almost ready for the NHL for last year, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. Because it's always good to have those type of options just in case. And oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I'm pretty certain. 1 second. You guys probably already. Yeah, oh my goodness, it's spelled different, but we got Peyton Manning. We got the friggin' football quarterback. It's spelled different because the Peyton Manning that plays in the NFL is P-E, not P-A, but still, I didn't even realize this guy was in this class. Well, you got to have some memes here late in the series. So, Peyton Manning, welcome to Anchorage. I don't know if you could throw a football outside in the weather, but it might be cold, it might not be. That is hilarious. That might be my favorite pick for names in quite some time. Probably since there was like Rich Kid, and I think it was in my Houston series. I can't remember what series that was in, but there was a guy named Rich Kid in our live stream that we had way back. I don't really know what to go with for this last pick, so let's just go with this Dodge guy, because Dodge, why not? Bottom 6. So there's our draft. At least we got Peyton Manning, so we know that we got ourselves a future Super Bowl champion, likely. I think he won Super Bowls. I'm not too familiar with football, but still. Fernandez is going to be a good pick, though. I think if we get him 1 year in the AHL, he should develop into be almost ready to make the NHL for that last season. So let's get to this re-sign stage. We also do got to bring back Joe Thornton as our head coach again, which obviously we're going to be doing that because Joe Thornton needs to be here right till the end. He's won us some Stanley Cups, and he's been our best coach for sure. And then we'll try and get Tanev back as an AHL head coach because he was apparently decent. So there you go. Get those guys back. We do have some scouts to bring back, and we also have some scouts to re-sign, which I already wrote down on paper because nobody reminded me, but luckily I reminded myself, which doesn't happen all that often. We'll try and bring back all these scouts again. Villi Alto. There we go. Okay, this is going to be an expensive offseason. Let's see how much money do we got. $60 million on the dot. That's a lot of money. And we're going to prioritize still bringing back Parrott and Claxton. Hey, look at that. That's actually a nice asking price for Parrott. I'll see if he accepts that first offer. And let's go down to Claxton. Has his asking price dropped? It has. We'll see if he accepts that, even though he doesn't want an extension apparently. Not a lot of these guys want extensions, which is kind of questionable, considering we just went to the conference finals. We will likely qualify all our RFAs. I believe Howes would be a UFA next year, right? Yeah, he would be. So let's lock him up for the last 2 seasons. Make it a little bit easier on us. Cunningham, he'd still be an RFA, so I'm going to qualify him. Because most of these RFAs I could probably qualify for the rest of the series, which is good. Some of them are AHL only, so it doesn't really matter if I give them long-term contracts. But yeah, all these guys should be easy to bring back. Let's see. Still 2 more years and before he becomes UFA, so that's good for the rest of the series, I'm pretty sure. Because I think it ends in 46-47. Watch it go to 47-48. Gamble is one of these guys I do want to extend long-term, I think, though. Because I know that he would be a future piece for this team if this team was to go past 25 years. So I am going to open up my calculator and give him the 6 years that he's asking for, but I'm going to do the 85% trick and see if we can get him for that, because I think he's a very key piece moving forward at least. So we will try and get him for 8.46, or well, basically 8.5 around, I think. Which I think is a decent price. I feel like he put up good numbers last year, so yeah, this should get it done. 8.475 for 6 years. It's a good chunk of change, but I think we'll be able to afford that with Claxton and Parrott's contracts dropping off a little bit. Derek Heath likely as well. Then we get into our UFAs. So we'll start off with Bobkov and Keith. Bobkov and Keith. Bobkov is relatively expensive, but I will sign him to a 2-year deal if he wants to. Give him a little bit more. What about Derek Heath? What is he wanting? 2 years as well? I'm okay with that, even though it might be an overpayment right now. Actually, maybe I should do the 1 year, and then I could give him less next offseason. Yeah, I think I'm going to do the 1 year for him. See if he'll accept 8.8. I think we might be able to maintain this roster with the amount of cap space we got, to be honest, which is pretty good. That's a bit of an expensive contract for Smith-Pelly, but we will try and get him to that contract because we want to just maintain this roster. Yeah, let's go with that for Sabrin. Glenn Cross, what do you want? Same price, not really that much. We're basically just handing out these big contracts like candy, but that is okay because I think we should be able to afford it. Addison, what do you want? And we'll give you it, even though you're kind of more of the depth option. We already gave Claxton a contract. Foot's going to get his ELC. Spruev should be probably being brought back for the AHL, but I have to let him go because he's going to want a one-way deal. Fox, don't want you. Don't want Houston either, or Ott. None of those guys are going to make it, so pointless. Same with Mealy. Goalie-wise, do we want to bring back Pusher? We might. Let me see first. There was also unsigned-wise. We do need to sign up Fernandez because I think I'm going to give him 1 year already in the AHL. And also I'm going to sign Bouwmeester just to see if those guys shoot up. After 1 year. Okay, so those are all the contracts dished out and set for Pusher. What is Pusher wanting? 6.1. Do we need him, though? We don't necessarily, because we could technically run Hayden and Fitzgerald, but I honestly think holding on to Pusher might be important. So I will hold on to Pusher at that asking price if he wants to accept it. There's probably going to be some rejections in there, but I think we should be able to afford all these guys. Thornton's back as head coach, which is good. Tanev is back as AHL head coach. Looks like we're getting our scouts back too, which is good. Let's just go through this fast, see if there's any rejections in there. All the UFAs accepted. Wow, that's actually amazing. And we still have $12 million in cap space. Oh man, we're kind of tight on cap because of these RFAs now. So we will have to qualify Gamble as well. We can't give him that big contract because he rejected it. So Gamble and Klepis, Tulipov, and Cunningham will take a good chunk. Everybody else should be cheap. So I think we have enough cap space to get everybody that we want back, which is good. Yeah, I think we literally just managed to keep everybody together, which is awesome. I might have overpaid on, say, Claxton, for example, since he's a 69 overall, but I honestly don't care because Claxton needs to be here right till the end. A lot of these guys are going to be UFAs again next offseason, but I think Derek Heath, Parrott, and Claxton all might retire, which if that happens, we'll have a lot of cap space available. So it's not the end of the world for sure. So there we go. Let's advance to free agency. I don't think we're going to make any free agent signings just because of all those RFAs still holding out. And I believe Gamble's going to be probably pretty expensive. I could still try and lock him up for the 6 years he wants, but I would rather him get his asking price a little bit down first. So, yeah, we're going to keep it that way. Let's just take a look still at free agents, even though we're not going to sign anybody yet. We might sign some people at the start of next season if we have the cap space, but I do want to see if there's any former players headed to the free agent market. Damn, this is a deep free agent market. 390 overall players. Actually, one's an RFA, but still 2 UFAs. Any former players in free agency? That's asking for like dirt cheap, because if somebody's asking for under $1 million, maybe I'd bring them in. But still, I don't think there is going to be, because we've seen a lot of players that we used to have retire already at this stage. Like, the only players I could think of that might be still playing are like Clay Minen and stuff like that on the defensive side, but they're going to be asking for a lot of money. Left wing wise, do I see anybody? No, not really so far. It's going to be interesting to see what our team does next season, though. Very exciting because I don't know if we're going to be a playoff team at all, which means if we aren't, we might only have one more season left to try and make it to the playoffs again. So, hey, look, DeMarchi's there. That's one former player. I forgot we even dropped him a couple years ago. I had 43 points. No wonder he's trying to get $6 million almost. I'm not going to pay him that, but still. At least there's one former player that's still playing in the league. Right wing wise, anybody? Don't see anybody right now. I feel like sometimes I like skip players that I drafted, but I don't see them either, so don't see anybody there. Yeah, I'm not seeing any really on this side either. Defensively, nobody really. Oh, well, there is Boris Zikov, but I don't have $8 million to give him. I mean, I could have let go of a defenseman and brought him in. Like, I could have brought him in instead of, what's his name, Smith Pelly, but, He'll head to the free agent market, which is cool to see. Not seeing anybody else, though. But that's okay. Is that our former Coley Minen? I don't think so, right? No, that's Hainu. That's a different Coley Minen. Let's go to goaltenders. See if any former goalies have headed to the free agent market. Koskarana's back in free agency. Only wanted $3 million. So we could have brought him in and then got rid of Pusher if we really wanted to, but Pusher's a better overall. So, oh, and Bissek's back there. Didn't Bissek just win a Stanley Cup? I can't remember. No, he didn't win a Stanley Cup, but he was playing in Colorado and in the AHL. Huh. Former goaltenders, huh? There's always a lot of them. And Volk. Maybe it was Volk that won a Stanley Cup, was it? No, it wasn't Volk. I thought one of them won a Stanley Cup, but maybe I'm just thinking of something completely different. So there's that. Let's advance to the start of next season, see if any of our RFAs start accepting, which some of them should, like the AHL ones at least. And then hopefully we could afford to get Gamble back as well. Cunningham accepts, so there's one roster player. Let's stop the sim because we are probably near the end of the summer. See what these guys are asking for now. Yeah, we only have these three, which are the main roster players and also the goaltender. We'll give Tulipov to 1950. That's good for me. Klebas 395. We'll give him it. Gamble $5 million. Yeah, see, we literally just had enough cap space, I think, to bring all these guys in. Wow. Just barely. Like, we're going to have, like, probably, like, $1 million in cap space. Maybe, like, $2 million. Oh, man. That is crazy. I could have probably waited till they dropped their asking price even a little bit more, but oh well. I just want to see if they all accept, which they all did. How much cap space we got? I'm curious. $4 million. That's actually a lot more than I expected. So we technically could have brought in some former players with the money we have, but it's kind of a risk. The good thing for us is, like I said, almost everybody that's on the defensive front's an RFA again for the last season, potentially. So we'll be able to hold on to them. Smith Pelly, on the other hand, might head to free agency next offseason. Depends on the retirements and stuff we have this year. But let's advance to the start of next season. Get our lines set up for another year, and then that'll be pretty much it for this episode at that stage. And then obviously I think I'm going to probably pre-record the next season almost entirely, just because it's good to always pre-record this type of franchise mode. Our team looks actually not terrible. Parrott's dropped to a 77 now. I bet you would put Claxton in the AHL though, which means I need to call him up. Because I do not want Claxton down in the AHL, I want him in the NHL. Wow. They have a pretty good looking roster, I'd say though. Let's do something like that. Vico should be technically up. Jansevsky could go over on this side. Technically, I shouldn't be taking somebody like Loins out of the lineup, but I'm going to be doing that for Claxton. I'm likely going to send Addison down and call up Claxton, because Miles Claxton needs to play here even if he's dropped off more. Like, what's his overall now? 67. This might be the worst overall player I've ever played in the NHL. Well, at least this late into a draft to glory. Like, our team's definitely had worse players in it in the past, but still. He's almost looking like a player at the start of a franchise mode. Okay, let's see what we got here. Looks like the AHL's looking pretty nice. We're actually got a lot of guys getting close. Yeah, we have a lot of guys getting close. So once like Parrott retires, if he retires this year, we have like Schultz, for example. Fernandez hopefully gets some growth. Ragnarsson. Like, we do have a bright future if this team was to go past the 25 years, which unfortunately can't. Butsayev technically could play in our defensive core, so we could technically easily let go of Smith-Pelly next offseason. There's also St. Jacques. Yeah, we're actually getting more growth than I thought. And then goaltending-wise, we have technically Fitzgerald who could jump in if needed. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Let's take Loins out of the lineup, though, I think, because he's probably, yeah, he's the worst potential, I think, out of the bunch. So we're going to take him out. And Miles Claxton is a 67 overall. He's going to play in our lineup. That's hilarious. And then defensively, Danner and Clevis, Smith-Pelly, and Tulabov, Howes, and Cunningham. Like it. I think this team maybe makes the playoffs. As long as Keith and stuff doesn't drop off a ton. I didn't even realize Keith was actually on the third line. We might have to keep it that way. Yeah, I think Derek Keith is going to be a third liner this year. I want him in the top 6, though, is the thing. Yeah, I think actually I'll put him back into the top 6, but he might drop down to the third line. But is this the last year of Derek Heath, Avery Parrott, and Miles Claxton's career? It honestly is looking like it, but I don't want to believe that just yet. Because those are our 3 captains likely, right? No, Claxton does not have even a letter because he was sent down to the AHL. So sorry, Hartnell, I got to take that off you. Claxton still needs an A on his chest because he's been here a long, long time. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll simulate the entire season. We'll see if this team makes the playoffs, but this might be one last chance for us to make the playoffs with the main core intact. And who knows how much those guys are going to drop off. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.